Hello, and welcome to this session. And in this session, we're going to talk about the time value of money and what it can do for you. Now, the time value of money is a very important concept in financial planning because it helps you in making financial decisions, especially when we set those goals. Where are we going to find these investments? What loans are we going to take? What's the best option? How much monthly will be our payments? The time value of money is going to teach us this, what it can do. This is what it can do for you. Now, money does not have the same value over time due to the fact that it earns interest, and that's why it's important to invest. Now, the time value of money is equally important in decision making with regard to annuities, which are a series of payments as opposed to a single payment. Now, annuities, you might hear the word annuities before and you relate it to your pension. Annuities means a series of payments, right? As opposed to a single payment. So how does the time value of this money affect us, right? So if you deposit 500 every month into your retirement account for 30 years, how much are you going to get back, right? You're going to get back that 500 every month, but you're going to get back some interest, right? So we're going to work these figures and see how this process happens so we can make wise financial decisions. Now, the impact of time value of money, it depends on these factors. The amount of money, we're dealing with money, the interest rates. Now, the interest rate is important, and the length of time of our investments, right, or our loans. Interest is the cost charged or payment made for the use of money. I call it interest is the cost of money. And if you want to borrow money, you have to pay interest. If you invest your money, you want interest for the money that you invested. Now, the simple interest method calculates interest on the principal only without any compounding. And when we say principal, we're talking about that initial investment. If it's an investment or if it's a loan, is the principal without compounding. And we're going to go through the example to see how interest is compounded. So you may have heard about simple interest if you went through school. Sometimes in maths, interest is principal by rate by time. That's how you calculate it. So for example, if I take $2,000 and I deposit it for 2 years, in an account that gives me 5% annually. How much would I earn after 2 years? 2,000 is the principal by 2 years by 5%. At the end of 2 years, I'll get 2,200. So I'm getting back my 2,000. I'm getting back 2,200 at a rate of 5% after 2 years. But when it comes to compounding is different from simple interest. So that's why it's important to understand the two concepts, simple interest and compound interest. Why is it important? Compounding compounds interest upon the principal. So for the example here, we have for simple interest, interest is only applied to the principal each year, the initial principal. However, with compounding, interest is applied to the principal plus the interest for the first year. So the first year was 105. 5% is now applied to the 105, while for simple interest, the 5% is only applied to the initial 100. Right? For the third year, 5% is applied to the compounded interest, right? The principal plus the interest. So the interest is compounding. Compounding means it's adding year to year. So when we look at the difference, simple interest at the end of 3 years, $15 interest. At the end of 3 years in compounding, we have $15.76. Now, if you have to use this information to make a decision of where to invest your money or what loan to take to maybe achieve a financial goal, which interest would you look at? If Bank A is offering simple and Bank B is offering compound, right? For your investment, of course, you take compounding because it is higher. The figure might be small, but if it's a large amount you invest in, it would make a very, a big difference, a very big difference, right? And the same thing with a loan or a credit card. One thing I must say with compounding though, interest, banks, financial institutions, they compound interest daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annually, annually, I think I left out quarterly. So what do you think will happen here? Where would you get the most interest? You get the most interest if it's daily because it's compounding, right? So when you're looking at accounts and they are compounding on the interest, you can find out, right? Read the prospectus, you can find out and see if it's daily, compounding, weekly, monthly, where's the best place to put your money. Now, so we know there's interest, that's the cost of money, and in the future value, you have simple interest, you have compounding interest. Right? Compounding interest is a better interest if we want to invest our money. Right? If we invest it daily, if we get compounding daily, we get more of it. Now, let's look at this interest rates that is being offered to us. Nominal and effective interest rates. There's a difference. I have an example here. Bank A, B, and C. Let's suppose I have $1,000 to invest. If I invest it in Bank A, I'm going to get a 5% interest. It's called the nominal interest or the stated interest rate. Stated interest rate. This is what they're going to tell us. You're getting 5% on your deposits annually. Bank B says 5%, Bank C says 5%. So where do I go? What do I do? You go further and ask about the compounding frequency. So Bank A is compounding quarterly, Bank B is compounding daily, and Bank C is compounding monthly. And I said before, the more time it compounds, what? You get the higher interest rates, right? And this is called the effective rate of interest or annual rate, annual principal rate. APR, the APR, right? So effective annual rate is calculated as a formula, 1 + 1 to the F minus 1. F is the compounding frequency. Now, I didn't show you, but I'll show you now. How we calculate future value. Future value means interest is compounding, which is the compounding of interest, using the Excel formula. Now, there's the formula I showed you. There are calculators, there are tables. But as I said before, Excel is my favorite tool. So I put in the rate, which was 5%. And I have the steps here. I put in the time, 2 years. There's no payment. There's one present value investment of 2,000. It's negative because once I put in money or I put out money, it's a cash outflow. We're going to talk about that type. And then I get my future value. What's the future value of $2,000 invested in 2 years at an interest rate of 5%? And Excel works it out for you. You put in the formula FV and you select the parameters and it works it out for you. Now I'm going to show you how it differs if you make that payment at the beginning of the period or the end of the period. Right? In this case, it didn't make any difference, right? So let me show you the effective interest rate now. Again, Excel works out that for us. And we want to find this effective interest rate because if you look at the example, let me go back to the example. If each bank is paying this 5%, maybe we don't get 5%, you might get a 1%, if so much. It's important to know the compounding so we can find the effective. The effective is just bringing it all together based on the compounding frequency. So we can see Bank B is paying a higher interest rate because the interest is compounded daily. The same thing might occur for different accounts. It might be the same bank, but different accounts. Interest is compounded quarterly, weekly, daily. You hear these things and you may not understand. So now you understand why it's important to choose the compounding frequency to get a higher interest rate on your investment. Or if it's a credit card, a loan, you would want one that compounding less frequent, okay? Right, so we have the interest rate. We understand simple interest rate, compounding. We understand the nominal rate or stated rate and effective rate. Now we're going to look at the present value. Present value is the opposite to future value. It is the movement of money back in time to the present. How much money is to be received in the future worth today? And this is the formula. But again, I'll show you Excel. So if I have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5, I want at the end of year 5, I want $5,000. The present value means how much do I have to invest today to get $5,000 with a stated interest rate, right? Or effective annual rates. This is what the present value means, right? So this is the future, 5 years from now. How much money do I need to invest today to make that $5,000? I have the example on my Excel. And this session of present value is called discounting. It is counting the rate. So what is the present value of $2,000 to be paid in 4 years discounted at 8%? Again, so I'm looking at 8% is the account is paying 4 years. In 4 years, I want to get $2,000. My rate is 8%, period is 4 years. I'm making one payment. Sorry, I am looking for $2,000 in the future. How much do I need to put now? Excel will work it out for you. PV, enter PV, and you put in the parameters, and you get $1,476. So you can see how this applies. If you know you want to buy a car in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years, in your down payment for your house of $40,000, and you have a lump sum, how much do you need to put into that account, in accounts bearing a certain interest? This example can help you with that. Now we've looked at one-time payments, but what about several payments? Several payments, as we said for annuities. Annuities, right? And we said annuities is a series of payments. So if you want to know the future value, right? If you want to make $1,000, you're making $200. Let's say you're paying $200 into account for the next 20 years. How much you're going to get? This is where we use the future value formula. Now, an annuity, as I said, is a series of equal payments or receipts made or received at regular intervals. These payments or receipts can be made or received at the beginning or the end of the period. So annuity would apply to payments, if you're investing, payment as in a loan, or receipts as if you're investing. Well, when payments are made at the end of the period, it is called an ordinary annuity. So the end of the period, meaning the end of the month, if it's compounding monthly, if it's compounding annually, the end of the year, is called ordinary annuity. And it's important for us to understand this, and we'll see the difference. When payments are the beginning of the period, it's called annuity due. So it's compounding weekly. Is it at the first of the week? It's called annuity due. So we have ordinary annuity at the end of the period and beginning annuity at the beginning of the period. So you can go back to your annuity policy and put in that in quotation, or your pension plan, or whatever investment fund, and ask them, is it an annuity due, or find out if it's annuity due or ordinary annuity. So how do we calculate this annuity due, future value? I'm going back to my Excel, where I have all my calculators. I have a future value table, a future value here. What is the future value of investing $1,000 each year for 5 years at a rate of 6%? So before we just had one figure, but now you put in $1,000 for 5 years in an account for at 6% interest rates. Again, using Excel, and you can just Google these information, right, on how to get the formulas. You'll find it there. It means at the end of, so the future, it means I will get $5,637.09 on an ordinary annuity, and an ordinary annuity is at the end of the period, and annuity due is at the beginning of the period. So at the beginning of the period, if you realize, I get more, right? A difference of $338. The lesson here is that the earlier you invest, right, you get more interest. Interest is compounded more, right? Because we know the concept of compounding, right? So the earlier you invest and annuity due, right, you get a better interest. Now let's look at the present value. So the future value is if you make payments, future present value of an annuity, if you make payments regularly. So we have the present value and we have the future value, and we have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Right? If you make that 1,000 each year, right, it gives you this figure. So the opposite applies for present value. Again, it's the same thing, a series of payments. But in this time now, we're making the payment at the beginning of the year, right? We're making the payments at the beginning of the year. Still making it at the beginning and the ending of the year. What we want to know for year 5, we want to know if we want that $5,000, how much we need to, how much our 1,000 will be worth in the present value a year from now. So back to my Excel calculators I have here. What is the present value of 2,000? No, that's present value, right? Annuity. What is the present value of investing 1,000 each year for 5 years and an interest rate of 6%? Here I have the rate 6%, period 5 years. I'm making a payment of 1,000 for 5 years, right? The present value of that, of my $1,000 over 5 years is $4,212.04, right? You see, it will get more values if you put 5. If you put the 1,000, we saw in the future value, if you put the $1,000, it's worth 5,600 in the future, but in the present, it's worth 4,212, and that's at the ordinary, which is at the end of the period. At the beginning of the period, it is, my present value is more. So if I'm looking at a value in the present, right, I'd want to use an ordinary annuity because it is lower. I pay less, right? This is for investing. If it's a loan, it's the opposite. Now I hope I don't confuse you. Try and we'll see how this concept applies to making decisions. Now, do you remember my goal sheet? My goals? Yeah, I have outlined my goals and estimated it, prioritized it, put time frames on it, and I calculated the monthly, which seemed to be more than I can afford. But I chose different accounts and I saw the interest rates. Now I'm going to use this time value of money concept and apply the effective interest rates. I'm going to see how these things are compounding to get the effective interest rates. And also I'm going to find the time value of my investments or my payments, right? How much I need to pay based on those interest rates. We're going to do that in the next session. So remember to share, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next session. Bye.